All right, Ceci, thank you. And sticking with the severe weather, Hurricane Milton is expected to make landfall in Florida very shortly. President Joe Biden has been briefed on the hurricane and is tracking FEMA's efforts there. The president also announced the deployment of 500 more active duty troops to help with the recovery after Hurricane Helene. But more help is still needed. And joining me over Zoom right now this afternoon is Jocelyn Hiller, the Regional Communications Director with the American Red Cross for the Rhode Island and Connecticut region. Jocelyn, good afternoon and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
At last check, more than 30 volunteers within our region have been deployed with the Red Cross. Has that number increased at all? Can you update us on that?
Yes, throughout the weekend, we have deployed around 10 volunteers to the southeast area. So we're upwards of around 40 for our region. And we know that number will only continue to grow as we better understand the needs, not only of Helene, but also of Milton, as that storm is expected later this week.
Absolutely. And how is Hurricane Milton going to impact the need for volunteers?
We are always looking for more volunteers to join our volunteer workforce. We have a strong cadre of trained volunteers who are supporting disasters. But as we continue to increase frequency of disasters, and we are expecting our second tremendous storm in the last 2 weeks, we know that that need for more volunteers will continue to grow, not only here in Rhode Island, but across the country. So if you are interested in helping out, get trained. We are looking for support for these types of hurricanes. Not only can you help out across the country, but also here at our Rhode Island office. As we send out volunteers, there's still a lot of work to be done here at home, and your help is needed.
Thank you, Jocelyn. And what would you say is an ideal amount of volunteers specifically for help with Hurricane Helene and Milton now?
We don't have a specific number right now. We know that we have volunteers on the ground, around 2,000, I believe, on the ground right now helping with Helene, and that number will continue to grow as we pre-position supplies for Hurricane Milton. So we don't have a specific number in mind, but do know that we have Red Crossers from across the country who are raising their hands to help, who are dropping everything because their hearts are with our neighbors in the Southeast, and will continue to support that effort with volunteers here locally as well.
And how do residents apply and get involved with volunteering, whether it's at home or actually going out there to help down south?
You can visit redcross.org/volunteer to learn more about opportunities for you.
Great. And what will be required of these volunteers on a day-to-day basis, especially if they're on the grounds there helping with Hurricane Helene and at this point Milton as well?
So any disaster responder who might be helping for a disaster, whether it be something that might be here locally or in other parts of the country, if you are deploying, that is a 2-week commitment. We also ask for flexibility. As those who are experiencing the storm are experiencing hardships, our volunteers are going in to help, but that might not always be a luxury deployment. There are also, there's also lack of access to resources for our volunteers as well. So we ask that you are in good health and you have flexibility, and most importantly, that you have that kind and compassionate heart, because you are working with people who have just lost their home potentially and experiencing trauma. So that's important to consider when looking to be a volunteer. Also, if you'd like to help out at home, we are always looking for help in our offices or to respond locally to home fires, which might happen overnight or during the day. So that's a shorter amount of time. So if you are interested in giving back in some way as a Red Cross volunteer, we encourage you to go to redcross.org/volunteer and check out what might be best for you and your family.
All right, Jocelyn, is there anything else you would like to add? A question I didn't ask, a detail that you'd like to add about the recovery efforts and helping these people down south?
I just want to reiterate that our hearts go out to everyone who has been impacted by Helene. Physically, I know we have a lot of family members who are down in the southeast states. So our hearts, we're thinking of those who have been impacted, those who have been affected, and we'll continue to be there for Helene and also for those in the path of Milton.
Well, Jocelyn, thank you again so much for joining us. We'll have this full interview on our website later on today on abc6.com.